What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Swan Signal Live. I'm your host, Sam Callahan, Senior Analyst at Swan Bitcoin. This episode, we got a really great guest. I'm excited to talk with him today. If there's one thing that Bitcoiners love, it's somebody who can reevaluate their prior beliefs around Bitcoin and then come to a different conclusion, or just do the work. That's all we kind of ask for. And there was one person that I've been following for a really long time who is traditionally in the gold community that recently kind of did a reversal on what he thought about Bitcoin. And that's Quoth the Raven, QTR, whatever you want to call it. There's a Substack that he writes, as well as a podcast that he comes out. And so I can't wait to talk to him today to get his perspective on why he kind of reversed his views on Bitcoin. So welcome to the show, Chris from QTR. What's up?
Nothing. I'll tell you what's up. My webcam sucks. That's because you look fantastic and I look blurry. Okay. Yeah. You're generally younger and have more hair, but also the camera quality of mine doesn't compare well to yours. So I hope you guys will slum it with me.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk with you. I've been following your content for years now. I kind of just like to follow along the traditional financial system. I feel like you kind of poke holes at some of the flaws of it and kind of expose some of the, let me just say, criminal activity, some of the flaws in the system that are kind of hurting everyday people, as well as you kind of talk about potential like gold investments and other things over the years of why you're into the sound money, I would say sound money advocate. But you recently made a reversal on Bitcoin, and which got the Bitcoin community all hyped up, which was probably surprising to you to see that reaction. So why don't you just talk about that? When you sent out that tweet, it went viral. Everyone was really excited. What did that make you think?
Well, it was like a nice 12 seconds, because I changed my stance on Bitcoin. And by the way, I didn't really change that much. I was bullish on Bitcoin going as far back, I think it's December of 2022 was the first time that I wrote about it on my blog, saying that I was buying some. So it was just kind of more the public proclamation that I wasn't 100% against it. That, of course, when I put that out there, everybody in the Bitcoin community that somehow permutated into like, I'm a maximalist and I'm an uber bull and like, which is fine. I get that that's, the Bitcoin community really is a permutation to turn all things into either, reasons to be bullish on Bitcoin or reasons that Bitcoin fixes whatever problem you have. So it's like this, it's like this input output machine, no matter. Remember Back to the Future when he's got the fusion reactor on the back of the fucking DeLorean and he just dumps a couple of old beer cans and some trash in there and it just turns into fuel. That's like what the Bitcoin community is for these arguments. No matter what you want to say, the output is always going to be like reasons you become a maximalist or problems that it fixes. And so it was like a nice 12 seconds. Everybody sent me a lot of nice messages and I appreciated all of them, and I just tried to be honest and on the level with what I was saying and my reasoning behind everything. And now anytime that I tweet about gold or I write something about gold, I still get 1,000 nasty responses from people in the Bitcoin community telling me what an idiot I am for not having 100% allocation and, for not, and I see this all over the place. I see it all over Twitter. Anytime anybody writes anything about gold, okay, so gold has had a great run over the last 3 months. So naturally people are going to be talking about it. It's like people in the Bitcoin community, they like take personal offense to it and they feel as though they're like the hall monitors that need to inform everybody that they all need to get into Bitcoin immediately or they're making a grave mistake. It's like, can we just fucking talk? Can we just talk about gold as having a good day? And so that was part of the reason I wrote an article just a month or two ago called Let Bitcoin Cook, which is like, hey, the fucking thing's doing good. Like, just let it go. Like, everybody just calm the fuck down a little bit in the Bitcoin community. So I enjoyed my 30 seconds of reverence, which then quickly turned back into being berated and loathed for some reason. But I like Swan, and I'm happy to be here with you guys. I'd never had a Bitcoin sponsor for my podcast before. And so, and I would have never in a million years thought that I would do that. But knowing I have some great friends, Larry Lepard, and people that I trust, like Lynn Alden, who are involved with Swan, and I was able to have a couple of calls with you guys and get a feel for the business and use the app and all that good stuff. And
Yeah.
and I like you guys. I like your team, and I'm happy that we're partners. And I hope the fucking thing. I hope it goes apeshit. I really do. It's just.
Amen. Everything's good for Bitcoin. That's the meme. But I'm curious, when you did come out like more, positive on Bitcoin, what was the reaction from the gold community? Did they say that,
No, there
feel
wasn't any.
betrayed at
Like,
all?
most of the people that I know that are gold bulls, with the exception of Peter Schiff, most of the people that I know that are gold bulls are also bullish on Bitcoin. And so, like Luke Groman, for example, who I've never actually talked to, but know from 2 or 3 degrees of separation, I'm sure. And I read his stuff, and he's a huge gold guy, and he's also bullish on Bitcoin. And Lynn Alden and Larry Lepard are huge on gold, and they're also huge into Bitcoin. So most of the people that I surround myself with that are gold bugs didn't say anything at all. Even Peter Schiff has not said a word to me about it, and I'm sure I've talked to him since then. And so, I have 1 or 2 friends make comments because they think that Bitcoin is going to fail. And so we kind of, jostled back and forth with a little bit of discourse about it. And then we went, on our ways. And that's the difference. Therein lies the difference. Nobody in the gold community has gone out of their way to tell me that I'm making a grave mistake by owning Bitcoin. However, anytime I say the word gold, I have 10,000 people in the Bitcoin community, commenting to me that I'm doing. And like I said on McCormick's podcast, gold is still #1 for me. I'm just happen to be bullish on Bitcoin also.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious. I mean,
there's enough fucking like excess liquidity to go around, right? McCormick said that on that podcast. He said, they're all just different buckets which to catch the Fed's liquidity. So it'd be better off if we all just kind of like. I just don't think that people in the Bitcoin community understand that the more aggressive they are with trying to promote it and trying to force feed people the idea, the less traction it's going to get. You have to let the idea breathe and let people come to it organically, like I did. When I started to do my research and learn a little bit more about it, it wasn't because I had 62 fucking internet hyenas screaming at me at the top of their lungs. It was because I just had like a Saturday and I was going on a long run, and I was like, all right, let's take a listen to Saylor and try to fucking put my preconceived notions aside. And then I watched a couple of YouTube videos, and I wrote all about all the things that I looked at. And I said, oh, okay, all right, like here's a couple of things that I didn't notice that make it make a little bit more sense for me. You have to let people come by it organically. You can't shovel the shit down their mouths.
Yeah, you can lead the horse to water. It's tough though. I mean, like, the Bitcoin community has taken a lot of punches over the years. So I think that's part of it. We've been called idiots for a long, long time.
I get that.
All we asked was that people did the work like you did. And like, we're like, can you just finally educate yourself a little bit?
That's not all people are asking though. That it's not, if people were responding to gold bug messages and just saying, do the work, that would be one thing, but that's not what's going on. And look, I love you guys. I do. Just like I love the gold community. I like all the sound money people. And if you look at the economy and markets through an Austrian lens, like you get it as far as I'm concerned. And that's one thing I love about the Bitcoin community is, they get the flaws in monetary policy, which is great. It's a necessity for understanding Bitcoin and for making a case for Bitcoin for sure. And so, I'm sure they've taken a lot of shit. Gold bugs have taken a lot of shit. Look, nobody's taken more shit than people that have been critical of the Fed for the last 10 years, 15 years. As long as I've been commentating on markets, which is over a decade now, I've been critical of the Fed. And the only thing that's happened is the market has just stuck it to me for 10 straight years and gone straight up. And for 10 years, I've said, hey, this unprecedented monetary policy is going to cause more problems than it solves. And for 10 years, the band has played on and things have made their own way. So you know, if you think I don't understand the argument that you're getting a lot of shit and being called dumb, like just go out there and try being called, you know, try being a perma bear and see what happens. Like you don't get invited on TV. Nobody gives a shit about your opinion. You know, I have this like little like renegade Substack that I fucking put a tinfoil hat on and I turn the lights off and I type in my apartment for, you know, a couple hours every morning. And that's it. I'm not, you know, I'm not talking to fucking Becky Quick on CNBC. So I get the idea that, you know, that it's raining shit on you guys a little bit, but you got to understand that like two wrongs don't make a right. You know, you guys are supposed to be the fucking libertarians, right? That's what I am. You want to invest in whatever you want to invest in. I'm stoked about it, man. Bitcoin, Dogecoin, fucking donuts in Belgium, whatever you guys are into, whatever flag you're waving, I support it, man. I do. Just, you know, there's no need to go out of your way to try to force it on other people. And I think that that's part of where the Bitcoin community, and I'm saying all this stuff with love. I really am. I didn't come on here to just start fucking bashing people because you know, it's not that big of a deal to me, but I'm just saying, like, you know, just lighten up off the gas a little bit. You know, it's like being in a relationship. You know, you meet a nice girl, you go out to dinner, you have a good time. Maybe she touches your leg under the table or something. You know, what do? You go home and you send her 150 text messages and call her 20 times in the first 2 hours after dinner, you know, sitting at home, like, why haven't you called me back? You know, like, no, you just fucking relax, dude. You enjoy the dub. You go home, you crack a fucking Pabst by yourself, put your feet up. You say, look, you know, it was a pretty good night tonight. We'll see how it goes. And you just let it stew. You let it breathe. You let Bitcoin cook. That's what you guys got to do. Let it cook.
Well, it's cooking. It's cooking. I'm actually, you know, I'm bullish on gold too. I think if we are, you know, correct, and which I think we are, about the future outlook of like the fiscal policy, monetary policy, what they're going to have to do, any kind of hard scarce assets going to do well. And gold's there's worse places you could have your money than gold. Absolutely.
Right.
So I'm pretty bullish on gold. You know, I just happen to believe Bitcoin's kind of like the fastest horse to play that, just given how small it is and like the network effects and things like that. But, you know, it's a free market. I totally agree. People can just invest money. They have different risk tolerances. You know, they're going to do what they feel is right for their unique situations. I think like educating people about Bitcoin when you see misconceptions just permeate everywhere for years and years and years, just the same old tired arguments. You know, you just feel the need to be like, no, no, no. Read this, because you know, you don't want misinformation being spread. Because it's like
there's a big difference between that and between telling somebody they're an idiot for not having 100% allocation to it. Those are two completely different things.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like Sailor. I understand Sailor now. I get where he's coming from. I'd like to know why he's selling so much MicroStrategy stock. If I had one question to ask, that would be it. But I get where he's coming from a little bit better now. But I still don't condone him saying mortgage your house and buy Bitcoin with it. Was he right? Did it go up? Yeah, it's gone up. Is it near all-time highs? Yes. Like, would you have made money? Yes. But like, doesn't make it irresponsible in a time. It doesn't make it a responsible thing to do, like in a time vacuum, just because, you know, it's like if I know the fucking ball is going to drop on red at the roulette table, is it still a responsible thing to do to liquidate everything you own and put it all on red on the table?
Yeah, I think I can't remember that specific quote from Sailor. I feel like it's kind of taken out of context a little bit. You know, when he's talking about there, I think is the speculative attack of taking out debt denominated in a currency that continues to be debased. And you want to take that debt and buy hard, scarce assets with it.
Sure. That makes sense really. With inflation at, 4%.
Yeah. But, when you talk about gold, I always hear this with gold. I heard it with Peter Schiff. I hear it a lot, like this intrinsic value. And I was wondering like what you could speak on that, because it's something that confuses me, because I look at the price of gold and I feel like a vast majority of its price or valuation is related to its monetary premium. And yet they always go back to like, well, gold has intrinsic value. It's used in industrial use cases. Bitcoin doesn't have that. So Bitcoin can't have value. It's not valuable. So what do you say to that?
Part of that's true. I mean, there's a bid for gold outside of it being sound money.
But how small is that bid compared to its overall valuation?
I don't know, on a percentage basis, how small it is relative to, how much buying of bullion occurs as a result of central banks. But there is definitely it's like silver. Like there's a bid for silver outside of being money as well. It's used in solar panels. Silver is used pretty much in way more industrial uses than gold, but gold is also still used, you know, pretty ubiquitously. People always laugh at the jewelry example, but gold is used in jewelry for a reason, and that's because its durability and because it lasts.
Mhm.
And so, it's a real physical, tangible metal that has properties that make it unlike silver and make it unlike Bitcoin, just as Bitcoin is digital and has properties that gold doesn't have. The only difference is that, gold has this alternate bid as a commodity that Bitcoin doesn't necessarily have.
So why does that matter? It just because it gets brought up all the time. The central banks are buying it's
Well,
all
because
time
I think the
all time
argument
high
from a
buying. They're
guy
not
like
buying it for the industrial use cases.
the argument from a guy like Peter Schiff is like, um if you don't have that like alternate bid, I guess, for it, then the only thing that keeps a bid under it is confidence, is probably the argument that he's trying to make.
So he thinks that you have to have some kind of underlying intrinsic value or like utility to support the
Yeah,
monetary.
there's like
That's what he thinks.
well, it's not what he thinks, it's what a lot of people think. I forget the quote, but at some point money was like defined as like the most sought after and useful commodity. Um or the most I don't know off the top of my head. It's something to the effect of the most sought after and useful commodity. And so because gold has a commodity use outside of acting as a store of value and as real money, then that gives it a leg up that Bitcoin doesn't have. That's what
Yeah.
gold bugs argue.
Yeah.
And also it's physical and it's analog and it's tangible. So like Larry Lepard says, like Bitcoin is digital gold and or digital sound money, and gold is analog sound money, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just struggle with it because I'm like, well, if that's the case, then and if Bitcoin has properties that improve on some of gold's shortcomings, like its portability
Well, it
and its
does,
verifiability, that
but
allows
it
it to
also
kind of
lacks
function.
properties that gold has, right? And vice versa. So gold has properties that Bitcoin doesn't have, and Bitcoin has properties that gold doesn't have. You can't take $1 billion worth of gold from here to Tokyo in fucking 30 minutes, you know. And so that's a property that Bitcoin has that gold doesn't have. And, similarly, you can't melt down Bitcoin for use in electronics or in aerospace or dentistry or jewelry, um, because it's not physical and it isn't a metal and it doesn't have those same properties as gold. But it's a lot easier to get from point A to point B.
Yeah. I think of it too like what's the function of money like a monetary good? It's to facilitate trade and create a price system between economic actors, like a tool. And if something is being used for industrial use cases outside of that, wouldn't it distort its ability to function as the money? Like it distorts a price because there's an additional demand for a use case outside of money itself.
No, I
Whereas
don't think
Bitcoin's
so.
100% monetary premium.
No, because it wouldn't be held as a store of value and as money for thousands of years if that was the case. I mean, you don't think like 5,000 years of history of gold being a, monetary and economic safe haven is like an accident, right? You don't think we're at like the early innings of trying to find out whether or not gold is, historically one of the best real monies that we've been able to come up with on
No, I think
planet
it
Earth,
has.
right?
I think it's the monetary properties though,
Well,
you
that's
know,
fine.
right? This industrial use case thing. I mean, even we didn't
Well,
even
it
have
is it
electronics for those thousands of years or like
yeah,
modern dentistry, We had jewelry, I guess, but that was mostly used to store value. Um,
sure.
so I don't know. I'm kind of like going down a rabbit hole. It's just like I just hear it a lot, and I'm just literally trying to learn the other perspective a little bit because it's not. I'm not trying to have like a Bitcoin versus gold thing. Like I said, I'm pretty bullish
Me
on
neither.
gold. I'm just kind of curious to hear the other perspective as
Well,
well.
as I came around to the idea of Bitcoin, like there are a lot of things that Bitcoin can do that gold can't do, and namely, like the transmissibility is one of them, and the portability and being able to kind of, the fact that there's no counterparty. I guess you could say the same about gold, unless you're like trading paper gold, but the idea that you can take it from point A to point B pretty easily and remit it to a person or a place or a business relatively easily, uh, I think gives it an advantage over gold for sure. And then the question becomes like, well, maybe they'll just put gold on the blockchain, and won't that be a solution? Which I can see a market for that as well. I mean, somebody was just talking about that yesterday on a podcast I was listening to. That kind of combines almost the best of both worlds.
But you still don't know where the gold is. It's the gold still has to be somewhere.
Yeah, and so just as they do now, they would it's
Yeah,
like it's like
okay.
companies like Gold Money. They put it all into a safe, and then when as it the rights to it change hands, they manage like the contractual obligations between parties that transfer back and forth, and like
Yeah.
the blockchain.
It'd be like new paper blockchain gold.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I
I
mean,
think
it would essentially, it could utilize all of the benefits of the blockchain that Bitcoin utilizes, and just be backed by something tangible.
well, Bitcoin's a digital gold that is fundamental to the functioning of the network itself. You almost like the network and the asset, the asset's a part of how the whole system works. So it's
Right.
actually like part of it. Like you don't need anything tangibles because you have the digital scarcity. So
Sure.
the whole like gold blockchain. It's a confusing idea for me because I don't understand what actually would accomplish anything different than paper gold. I don't know if it actually solves any of the gold's problems, but people have tried. There's like multiple versions of it. Over the years, people have had this idea, and um, yeah, I think we'll see more of it. I think we'll definitely see more of just like all assets kind of being tokenized, so to speak. You had like
Yeah.
BlackRock coming out, like doing this. So I think you're going to see it across the board. So it's going to be really interesting to actually see how that plays out. I wonder if we could go back to like, because I know you were kind of critical of Bitcoin in the past. You poke holes in it a little bit here and there. And so what did it actually take for you to like, what kind of clicked? Like, what are some things where like maybe before, like you didn't understand, or we were like, oh, this actually, this kind of is interesting. That kind of made you rethink things. I'm curious, like if somebody else is watching this and they have holdups, what are some of the things that were holding you up before that made you think like, oh, maybe this isn't just like a complete nonsense,
I,
Ponzi scheme, whatever you want to call it.
I think just like understanding how the network works, and how it's essentially, I was talking about it the other day, and using an analog that the network is like, it's like one of those bike locks, that's got the numbers on it. And, every time one person hands it to another person to use, like they can reset the code and they get one more digit. And so, the more the lock gets passed around, the longer the password gets and the harder it gets to crack. And, the, the cryptography for Bitcoin is similar to, I mean, that's really dumbing it down.
Mhm.
But the more it's used, the stronger it gets. And the larger the network gets, the more decentralized it becomes. And the more decentralized it becomes, the more secure it becomes. And the less chance people other than those using it have say in its destiny. And so to me, the appeal to it becomes the fact that it has a chance to really democratize money, and it has the chance to be a real off ramp out of the central banking and fiat world if the people want it to be. It's you know, detractors would say that it relies on the confidence of the people that use it to maintain its value, and that's kind of the truth. It because the more people that adopt it, the stronger it gets, and the higher the hash rate goes, and the more nodes there are, and so um, the network strengthens as more people adopt it, and it really has it has a chance to be something brand new, and it has a chance to be one of the first things I've ever seen that returns some power from the central banks to the populace, to the everyday person. And I just haven't seen a lot of that in the last 15 years, aside from to the extent that I like gold. But this is, Bitcoin is completely different from gold. They're two completely different things. It's Bitcoin is the invention of digital scarcity, right? And so um, the decentralized nature really makes it extremely unique. It's just a
Mhm.
question of whether or not, having that first mover advantage and being the first of its kind is going to be the thing that solidifies Bitcoin as, the base layer for digital money, or, cryptographic money going forward. And so there's a semblance of a leap of faith that I take also too in believing that Bitcoin could be successful, because when I write it all down, it doesn't if I were to go down and make a list of pros and cons, it would probably come out pretty even. But at some point, like, you need kind of something to believe in also too. And I wrote in my piece, like, if there's one thing that I can believe in and I can get behind, it's returning power to the people. And it's the idea that there may be something out there bigger than the what I think is completely Ponzi-ish central banking
Mhm.
system that the whole world is on, the fractional reserve banking system. And so this emerges as a contender and has, you know, been alive and kicking for 13 or 14 years. And once I wrapped my head around how the cryptography works and how the network works, um, it just makes it clear that, look, it's not going away anytime soon, and especially now that you have Wall Street behind it, anything they can make fees off of and they have an interest in perpetuating, they're going to. I mean, I see the ETFs as a huge inflection point, because it's essentially a blessing from it's a tacit blessing from Wall Street,
Mhm.
um, that at least in some way they're going to get behind it. And if they're only behind it to get fees now, and they're not behind it as a store of value, that I think will change as adoption continues. I still think we're very early in the adoption cycle for Bitcoin, and I think as long as the hash rate continues to go up, and as long as the number of nodes continue to grow, and as long as it's backed by the most powerful computing network on the face of planet Earth, you pretty much have a right to be on the forefront of emerging technologies as it relates to, you know cryptographic currency. And so I think the next thing that's going to happen is, I think one of the Middle Eastern countries is going to put it on their balance sheet, so it won't just be El Salvador. And then it's like, let the game theory begin at that point, and then then you have a whole new set of questions, which is, what do the gold versus Bitcoin allocations look like for central banks? Like, will any other central banks take it on? What does it mean in terms of validation? I just saw today, without a source, but somebody wrote on Twitter that the BRICS nations were considering a um,
Stable coin.
digital,
Yeah.
yeah, digital stablecoin. That's what it was. So you saw it also. Um, and it makes sense that things progress to digital means. I mean, that's what's happened with the compendium of all human knowledge as we've known it. It's gone from, these massive voluminous libraries that we used to have and maintain to, an SD card that's like this big. And it's like everything we've ever known or thought throughout the course of the entire human race. And so the same thing will happen with money. And it's just a question of, what role Bitcoin will have, and how it will kind of be tucked in there. But I'm encouraged by the fact that the ETFs got approved. And I really do feel like as though it is getting past a too big to fail point just from an adoption standpoint. That's not to say I don't think the price m- may go down again, because I think it might. I still think there's a lot of fraud and excess in the crypto ecosystem that has to get shuffled out. I think there's probably still a lot of questionable happenings with Tether, though I can't put my finger on it. But my guess is that we'll see some more spectacular blowups in the crypto space, and we will see we'll see some of that excess get pulled in, and we'll probably have like a crypto winter 2.0. But that's not to say that Bitcoin's not going to be standing at the end of it, because um, everybody that knows what it is and how it functions knows that doesn't matter what kind of song and dance you do around it. Like, the network operates the way the network operates, and that's the way it's been going for 13 years, and that's the way it's going to be going for the foreseeable future, especially now that we have all these people that have a vested interest in protecting the network. So if you bring on, if Qatar goes out and decides they're going to put 5 billion on the Qatari sovereign balance sheet, not, not only do you have adoption, but you also have another major interested party that has a vested interest in protecting the sanctity of the network. And so,
Yep.
just like the security, the network grows in strength and in size as adoption continues. And so, it's then the
You know,
question just becomes like, have we reached that peak inflection point yet, where the network is going to get to some level of homeostasis and just hum along adoption wise, or is there still room to grow? And I think there's still plenty of room to grow. So as long as that's the case, you know short to midterm, I don't have any reason to think that Bitcoin is going anywhere. And
yeah, I mean, there's so many memes. There's so many memes in Bitcoin in terms of like, we're so early. That's one of them. Like, oh, we're still so early, but it's so true when you look at the total addressable market, when you look at all the actors that still aren't in, that manage trillions and trillions of dollars, central banks, governments, Wall Street's just kind of dipping their toes in now. One of the like sectors of the economy that haven't been disrupted by technology is the financial sector. Uh, maybe that's because they have regulatory moats, whatever the reason may be. It's so archaic these days. If anyone tries to send money, they know that. And I think that the Wall Street ETFs could be like a Trojan horse. They were bringing in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin actually is a better way to send value. It's faster, it's cheaper than a lot of these traditional alternatives, and these banks make a lot of money off fees, still transaction fees. And when it comes down to it, the whole financial system is completely ballooned because of the financialization that has occurred because of the fiat money that we're in. The easy money, the debt has exploded. Financialization, financial products, the entire financial advising industry. Basically, it's because the money doesn't hold its value. So it pushes people to have to invest their savings. If the money itself could just hold its value over long term, people wouldn't have to take risk
sure.
and take on advice from people. And how do you invest my money? How do I just protect my money from losing value? And if Bitcoin comes in here and it's like, oh, you can actually save in Bitcoin, well, the idea is that there's going to be a great definancialization that occurs over the long period of time. And it's actually going to shrink Wall Street, whether they realize it or not. And I'm talking like long time period here. But what do you think of that as like these ETFs as like a Trojan horse? Like, they're embracing it now for the
Well,
fees, but they could just be embracing a Trojan horse that'll actually disrupt them
look, do you
in the
want
long
Wall
run.
Street to back it or not? I mean, if it's a great idea and it's going to survive and it's been going to become the global like digital Unicode for money, I mean, everybody in every financial sector everywhere in the world is going to get behind it to some degree. So, I think from an adoption standpoint, the ETFs are a good thing. If there's some backdoor Trojan horse to, usurp power on the network or whatever, well, you know, I'd be happy that I'm in before everybody. That would be number one. But thus the beauty of the network, right? See if you can get half the nodes, and I don't know. You'd be faced with a lot of questions that the network hasn't had yet. But I don't see it as that, anyways. I don't think there's some nefarious like um, underpinning from Wall Street to go in and try to usurp power
No,
I
I
think.
think Bitcoin is the Trojan horse that's going to usurp power from Wall Street by
Oh,
them
yeah,
accepting
that
it
might be
in.
the case.
That's what I mean. Like
No, no, no.
they
Yeah,
can do what they want. They could try to attack it, but that's going to be a test for Bitcoin. And it's like that's a good thing. Bitcoin will be tested in every single way we can possibly think of. People
yes.
will try to hack it. People will try to take control of it. If it can't withstand these attacks, then it's going to fail.
And
But
that's,
you have to believe in the incentives and the security, and that it can withstand any of these attacks in order for it to ultimately succeed.
and I think
Um,
like the one thing that could standardize Bitcoin, I wrote an article called, I think the one thing that I think could standardize Bitcoin is if you do have another financial crisis and you have another like Occupy, like you did in 2008, like the answer for those people that want to opt out of the system, who were so pissed at everything that they were, I
yeah,
don't know, living in tents outside of City Hall, getting in my way as I was trying to walk to my bartending job. I don't know what they were doing. They were banging drums, they were dancing
I
around.
remember that. Yeah,
It was, there were some odd smells coming from those camps. I'm not trying to take away from those people because what, as I said before, whatever you're into, I support. I was fucking walking around my Ron Paul sign still till this day. I just interviewed Ron Paul on my podcast like,
oh, nice.
6 months ago. But when there's another financial crisis and everybody is looking to blame the bankers, there's going to be a pretty obvious solution this go round. And I think if 2008 happened today, um, Bitcoin would be the obvious answer. I mean, people would be like, "Hey," and the crazy thing is, again, like, you know, it's the democratization is extremely powerful because if enough people decide they want it to work, it's going to work. And that's it. It doesn't matter if the US and Canada and the EU decide to say we don't want Bitcoin. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll say it's used for money laundering and, it's the same with gold. Maybe they'll say we need to seize your gold again and we're nationalizing the miners. And they may say the same thing about Bitcoin. We need to seize your Bitcoin and we're going to nationalize the miners. But if that happens, like the crazy thing about the decentralized nature of it is, doesn't matter. People are going to move to fucking Poland or Finland or Mauritius or whoever, or in El Salvador or wherever embraces it. So you'll see this like, kind of global. I mean, you've already seen like migration to El Salvador just due to Bitcoin, right? So it's had this kind of magnetic effect on people that buy into the ideology. And so if enough people, it's like, how many billions of people? There's 7 billion people on Earth. How many of those billions do you need to get behind something before the time for it has decidedly come? It's like, what's the old saying? You can't stop an idea whose time has come. And that'll just be a lesson to all of the elites in power that the people still make the decisions. And so, it's like that last COVID lockdown they tried to do in China. It was only like a year ago or whatever. They decided like, we're doing one more lockdown. There's another variant or some bullshit. And people in China, which is the last place people find their First Amendment voice and protest, they just said, fuck it, we're not doing it. Like they took to the streets and they protested. And in China, that shit like never happens. And the government came out, a week later and said, we're rescinding the COVID restrictions. It's like, yeah, what happened? All of a sudden you were reminded that you had 3 billion people in your population and, the bureaucracy in Beijing is like 1,000 guys in suits. So when it comes down to brass tacks, like who's going to win? What are you going to do? Nuke your own people? Like, come on. And so it's the same deal with Bitcoin. There's a lot of strength in numbers and Bitcoin kind of returns that strength to the people and thus the basis of its appeal to me. I like that. I keep trying to figure out analogies that make me say what I'm thinking about it better. But, I see it as a currency. And so I see, when you buy it with US dollars, I see that as like an FX pair, right? So I see here's just, you're swapping one currency for another. And I see it as like this like digital Unicode for money. And I know I'm using that wrong, but like just kind of like it's like a layer of digital money that just kind of it can usurp everything. It doesn't yet, but has the potential to be, it'd be like if everybody on the earth spoke English. you wouldn't need to figure out what language everybody's speaking in, because everybody's speaking in the vocal Unicode for language, which is decidedly English for some reason, or it doesn't have to be English, Mandarin, whatever. But monetarily, Bitcoin allows everybody to speak the same language. And so,
yeah, no, I mean, I think that's good. This is why there's so many analogies in Bitcoin, by the way. And if you're not like educated about Bitcoin, or you're critical of Bitcoin, and you hear these memes, you're like, these guys are crazy. Like, you're hearing like Bitcoin is freedom, Bitcoin is hope, Bitcoin's a
right.
peaceful revolution. Like all
Yeah,
these
that all
things.
sounds like bullshit until you understand it. By the way, I'm wondering how many people made it past the first 5 minutes of this interview where I was just like going on a tear, talking a bunch of shit. I was just thinking, like, there's probably not that many people watching right now. I'm
Yeah.
just starting to make some good points that Bitcoin people that can, like, get behind and be like, oh, yeah, fuck yeah, he is with
Yeah, no,
us.
they had to,
It's like there's fucking nobody left.
well, I think that, we talk about the traditional financial system. I mean, Ponzi this, or it's just like manipulated, right? And so many people are feeling the effects, and they're like, something's wrong, but they don't really understand. And I've heard somebody say this years ago. There's another analogy where it's like you're playing Monopoly, and you're just realizing that the rules are rigged. It's rigged against you, this game. And the banker who's in control is just like printing money, devaluing stuff. Can't afford anything. And so eventually you just say, I'm not going to play anymore. Like, I opt out of this game,
Well, it's like take
and I'm going to come over
$100.
here.
It's like take $100 and then, like, apply like income tax to the $100 when you make it, and then apply like sales tax when you go to turn it over, and then subtract the 3% of the power it loses over the course of a year for inflation. Like, the fuck are you left with at the end of the year? Between inflation and taxes, the purchasing power of the money that you earn when you go out and lay bricks for a living or do honest work, it just erodes away. It
Yeah.
just, it just fucking, it's like fucking osmosis, it just fucking floats away into thin air, oh, another tax, another fucking, another, 3% annualized, compounded by the day, bit of inflation. And so prices get hiked up and things cost more. And then, you pay an income tax, and then you pay a sales tax. And then if that money gets, passed along another way, they pay another tax on it. And it's just like, it just continues to erode to the state. And so you see a lot of, the one thing I think that's going to be beneficial to Bitcoin is when this next like cycle of easing comes in. I don't agree with monetary policy, but when they flood the system with money again, which they will undoubtedly do, I think that'll be very bullish for anything that has a fixed supply, whether it's Bitcoin or, the dust sitting on my floor here. Everything's going to go up nominally in value. But yeah, I think I think that if you work an honest living, that you should have the right to be able to preserve your wealth that you've earned. And it's exceptionally difficult to do when it's being taxed and inflated away the way that it is. So you have to understand that. And you have to have exit ramps. And, I think gold's an exit ramp, and I think Bitcoin's an exit ramp.
Yeah, I think if I'm going to say, like, there's not much things that are certain in the world, but two things that I think are true is there will only be 21 million Bitcoin, and they're going to continue to debase the currencies. So I think those are the two things I could base.
Those are the only two things that you could come up with that you think are certainties in this world. People used to say death and taxes.
I understand Ben Franklin, but 21 million and currency debasement, I would add that to the list. And when I think about people's ability to basically hit them where it really hurts by basically taking their wealth and saying, I'm not going to play in this game anymore, I'm going to put it into this other system where I have, it's more fair. Everyone's playing by the same rules, and you can never change those rules. I think that's really attractive, and it's going to become more attractive to people. And it's like you said, one thing that along with those income taxes, along with the regular inflation, every like 10 years or so these days, we get another crisis, and then another, trillions and trillions of dollars. Next one, is going to be bigger, and that's going to just like exponentially increase.
Well, it has to be, right?
Things, right?
Like mathematically, it has to be.
Right. And so like it's coming. And so when that happens, you said like, that could be bullish. I mean, it could cause a lot of issues like the Occupy Wall Street. What I'm afraid of is it just still seems like people don't understand, exactly what's happening or who to actually blame. They're so confused. They know something's wrong. They know they're getting screwed over, but they're fighting each other. They're fighting, they'll blame Wall Street. They'll blame greed. It's like Peter Schiff. I actually love Peter Schiff because in the Occupy Wall Street days, I remember him going down with a sign being like, "You're at the wrong banks.
Right.
Like, you need to go to the Fed." Like,
he's right. I just said the same thing from one of the people from Matt Taibbi's Substack reached out to me, asked me some question, but my answer was essentially that, greed can be expected in the financial sector, right? Like, I don't think greed is going to surprise anybody in finance, and you have to do your own due diligence, but it's like, what enables the greed, right? What allows the greed to kind of gestate and grow? It's the insurance that no matter how bad somebody fucks up, the Fed is going to be the lender of last resort and is going to bail everybody out, just like we saw in 2008 and just like we saw with the regional banking crisis. The people that invested in the dog shit in Silicon Valley's portfolio deserve to lose 100% of their investments. End of story, full stop. But for whatever, the $250,000 are guaranteed. If you are going to invest in pre-revenue VC dog shit and that bank gets rocked because the best idea their PM can come up with is to buy treasuries with a 10 basis point yield, like, you deserve to lose. You don't deserve to get fucking bailed out. Like, what the fuck? Like, why the fuck am I paying for that? Like, I can blow up my own trading account. I do it all the time. Like, nobody's fucking bailing me out. Like, I want money. I got to go earn it. Where's my fucking discount window? And so, like, it's ridiculous. And there's just so much moral hazard there.
So much
I said to this woman, look, like, during COVID, if they really wanted to spray $5 trillion of liquidity across the country, they could have cut every single person in the country a check for like $17,500, but they didn't. They cut all of us a check for $600 and took the other $3 trillion and sprayed it directly into the fucking financial assets, which means that me and you have enough to fucking go out and get a Domino's pizza and go see a movie for one night. And Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos's net worth goes up $20 billion as a result of saving the stock market. So, like, and I'm not like Mr. Anti-billionaire. I think people that fucking make a lot of money, like that, they deserve it. I'm a capitalist. I'm down with that. It's just like, this is fucking crony capitalism, and it's terrible to the middle and lower class, which is why these people desperately need an off ramp to opt out of this system. I just generally think that that's like, the question she asks is, does quantitative easing widen the inequality gap? It's just like, undoubtedly, it undoubtedly does. Yeah. When you're going to spray 5 trillion and 4 trillion of it goes to financial assets and 1 trillion goes to the fucking piss ant peons like me and you, that right there is disproportionately distributing a newly printed $5 trillion, which, by the way, is not $5 trillion in productivity. It's $5 trillion out of thin air, which takes the existing purchasing power and just fucking subdivides it into, 5 trillion more units, and then kind of takes that new homogenized fucking pile of purchasing power and distributes it a certain kind of way that benefits the and so the point of the matter is, like, people have a right to be pissed when those kinds of things happen, and they will happen again. And so, Bitcoin could be an exit ramp from that and could return some of the, like you said before, like, people don't really know what to do. I was telling McCormick, like, it's like the GameStop thing, right? Like, people were pissed and they didn't really know why they were pissed. They were pissed about something, right? Something, Melvin Capital, something, Ken Griffin, evil billionaires, short sellers. Something's going on there we don't understand. Whatever it is, it fucking sucks and we don't like it, but we don't really understand it. And so how are we going to make a statement? Well, we're going to fucking gamma squeeze the worst company in history from $0 to $1 trillion and just wreak some general havoc, which is what happened, which is cool. Like, no problem with that, except, like, they point the blame in the wrong place. I watched the movie. it was all about getting Ken Griffin and getting, you know, Vlad Tenev and getting the short sellers. It's like, look, short sellers don't destroy companies. Short sellers bet against companies that are destroying themselves. There's nothing that shorting a stock can do that's going to change the day-to-day operations of a company for the most part. But for, you know, when an activist short reveals information about a company, which may change its trajectory, but, you know, generally it's 99% of the time it's truthful information. And so the market has to respond accordingly, you know? And so it's not as though you can like short a company, you know, to make it go bankrupt. People short companies because they have terrible dying business models, or they're overvalued relative to peers or whatever. And they think that
fraud.
Or they're fraud, right? And they think they're more likely to go down than they are to go up. And that's a permitted legal way to invest, just like a company that's undervalued, you would want to own shares of. And so these people at GameStop, like they had a beef, but they didn't even know like their beef, in my opinion, if I had to sum it up for them, and I'm not a duly designated representative of theirs, but their beef is with the fucking widening inequality gap, right? It's the fucking delta between the haves and the have-nots. And I'm not fucking Karl Marx, okay, Mr. Proletariat in the fucking ruling class, but they can feel that. They can feel that when they go to buy their coffee in the morning and it costs twice as much as it did 2 weeks before. They feel it. They don't know what it is, but it's fucking annoying. You know, I did a video calling it a weighted blanket one time. It's like inflation's like this thing that kind of falls on you. And when it first does, it's like, oh, okay, like this kind of feels nice. There's a little prosperity here. But by the time the blanket falls all the way on you and you realize it's 1 trillion pounds and you can't move and you're just like, you know, like you realize, okay, this is fucking bad, not good, right? And so I think that the mom and pops that don't necessarily have the time to deduce what in the fuck is going on and how the whole system works, because they're too busy out there actually being productive and providing products or services for people, you know, unclogging your fucking toilet or, you know, reshelving the books at the library. They don't have time to figure out monetary policy and how this whole fucking system works in the dark machinery of the night. So they go out and they fucking throw a Hail Mary on GameStop and they celebrate it as a success. But little did they know, I think that their beef is with monetary policy. The crazy thing about inflation now is that it's become such a mainstream issue that people are starting to understand it. Between Bitcoin introducing people to Austrian economics and kind of like the Austrian way of thinking, right? Because there are a lot of principles that if you, whether you love or hate Bitcoin, you learn a lot of basics, right? You learn supply and demand and stuff like that. You learn how the fiat system works. But inflation has become such a Main Street issue that people are being forced to learn, like, hey, this is why this is happening. And here's why it is negatively affecting me. So the last 10 years of listening to these central bankers say inflation's a mystery. We need more inflation of it, and we don't know why. We just can't generate enough inflation. We can't generate enough inflation. We don't know where it comes from. I remember the headline on Bloomberg was, inflation is a mystery. Janet Yellen says inflation is a mystery. You know, now all of a sudden it's like fucking mystery solved. You print fucking $5 trillion worth of money and everything costs more. Fucking numbskulls, like you don't need a goddamn PhD from fucking Princeton to understand that.
When inflation, you know, surprised the Fed, I think Jerome Powell said something similar. We now know how much we don't know about inflation. You know,
wonderful. He said like multiple times over the last 2 years, like, well, we just don't know what the neutral rate of interest is.
Yeah,
it's like, well, fuck me. Who's controlling the interest rate? Oh, it's you guys. Perfect. Oh, that's the only thing you guys do, isn't it? You guys are in charge of pegging the interest rate, right? And you don't know what the cost of money is. Here's a novel idea. Why don't you leave it up to the market and see what happens? You'll have 6 months for everybody's fucking butthole pucker up for a little while and things will break and then everything will get better. And the best part is you won't have to figure it out because the market will do it for you.
Well, they could have done it too. I mean, like if they wanted to bring inflation down, just let the banks fail, like Silicon Valley Bank. I mean, you would have had pretty quick, you know, disinflation.
They can't do that because Oprah had investments there. What's wrong with you? You know,
they could have just let them fail. But they didn't.
Meanwhile, when my family member goes into like a Wells Fargo office and the guy there, you know, takes my elderly family member's like $200,000 life savings and puts it into some noxious, toxic annuity that winds up, you know, paying 10% annually in fees and drops in value 50% over the course of 5 years anyways. Like, that guy gets a fucking promotion, and we wind up with $70,000 after 5 years instead of $200,000. That's all fine, right? But Oprah fucking puts money into the world's worst, slide deck. Some of these companies, that's all they were. It's just slide decks.
Is that
No,
really true?
no
Did
revenue,
did
no
Oprah
actual
actually own?
products, no sales, probably no prototypes, just a slide deck with some stupid idea. What are you gonna do? We're gonna fucking mine. We're gonna mine. We're gonna mine rocks from the moon, and we're gonna extract the alkalinic atomic energy from them, and we're gonna carbonate it, and we're gonna put it into a thing here. We're seeking $20 million in funding to get us off the ground. We have no prototypes. By the way, I'm fucking 19 years old and I don't know shit about shit. And people are just like, oh yeah, take as much money as you want. Those are the people getting bailed out.
Yeah. And they were always, they're kind of like, the taxpayer is actually not paying for this bailout, which, because it's the FDIC, and they say, well, it's spread out, all the banks pay for it. But, those banks just pass on the cost to their customers eventually. And then they actually did drain like some like emergency treasury fund during that process. I forgot the name of it.
The bank
but,
term
that's
funding
taxpayer
program.
money. Yeah, something.
Yeah, but it all winds up, we wind up paying for it one way or the other. It might not hike our taxes, but it comes out via inflation one way or the other.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing's free.
Nothing's free. Exactly. And it's like the short sellers. I mean, it's just such an interesting thing, because our friend Larry Lepard tells the story, right? He was short during the global financial crisis, and then they banned short selling. And he tells that story. Totally got screwed over. And short sellers,
congratulations, you got everything right. Now go fuck yourself, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like short sellers play a critical role in the markets. They're like I don't want to say referees. That's kind of like the wrong.
How about they tell the truth? Let's start with that.
They're crucial.
That's something that nobody else in the industry does.
They're cleaners. They clean things out. And once operators don't deserve to be in business, if they get shorted and they're right, they'll make money off that business, but eventually that business will go out of business. And then the resources will be allocated to better operators and, resources. And it's, that's how capitalism works. So it's
exactly
the banning of short selling during any of these crises is just another thing that shows like how manipulated.
All it does is prolong the misery even longer. It stifles the truth. It pushes reality away for another however long, 6 months, 6 years. It's like printing money. It's a temporary solution that will come back and bite us in the balls, with twofold the gusto with which it would have if we had just let it happen to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of blows it up and causes more instabilities down the road. Each crisis seems to be bigger than the last one. And so
the problem is nobody wants to feel uncomfortable. That's the problem. 1% down day in the S&P. Everybody freaks out. Can't have that. Joe Biden's like, am I going to get reelected? Jerome Powell, something breaking. Steve Mnuchin, December 2018. The stock market went down 5%. Oh,
that's the one thing you can't like be critical of Bitcoiners about. There's no.
You're right about that.
Bitcoin, there's no circuit breakers. We've held through a lot of volatility.
I like that too.
You know what I mean?
That's one of the things that I like. The volatility is indicative to me that it is not being managed, because all hell routinely breaks loose in the Bitcoin market. And that's something that I think you have to make peace with, which is why I like Swan, actually, because, you just say, hey, I want to buy X amount over X amount of time, and you don't forget about it.
Yeah, dollar cost average.
Bitcoin's up 10% today. Great. That's good. I'm up 10%. Bitcoin crashed 50% overnight. Okay, I'm buying at a 50% discount today. Whatever, and you just dollar cost average over a very long amount of time. And if the Bitcoiners are right, and it does turn into a global digital reserve asset, it's not going to fucking matter whether it's up 100% today or down 90% tomorrow, because it's all going to come out in the wash, 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now.
Totally. I want to end with, I just kind of want to get your thoughts. I mean, you follow the market closely. You comment on it for years now. How do you see things right now? Like, I mean, it's kind of
the stock market.
just in general, like the macro, the Fed cutting rates, you got the stock market like kind of dipping now, but it was hitting all-time highs just
All right. Well, how
recently.
much time do you have?
Gold ripping. I'm fine, man. It's how much time you got. But I thought we haven't really talked about like the current market or the current macro environment, and I just love to hear your thoughts about it in general.
I think that we are in unprecedented, uncharted waters, and I'm not trying to be Mr. Doom and Gloom. I'm really not. I swear to God. And proof of that is when the Fed came in April of 2020 and did massive QE, and I started to realize that COVID was not going to be the big fucking disaster that everybody thought it was. I was bullish on the market. I said, now's the time to fucking get in and buy the shit that you want to hold for 100 years, because this has officially become an opportunity. We have determined this is not Ebola. Everybody's not going to be dead. It's not the case in South Korea and Italy, where we're getting this secondary pieces of data. And this was a massive sell-off. It was the day that Bill Ackman was crying on national television. And so that's just, let me just give that to you first as proof that I'm not bearish all the time. I'm really not. I'm critical of monetary policy all the time, but I'm not bearish on markets all the time. So hopefully that will allow you to understand that I can distinguish between being critical of central banks and also trying to make money, which, you have to kind of go with the flow of whatever's happening, even if it is, privatizing profits and socializing losses. That's the system we're being given. So what do you think's going to happen? Now, I think we're in a very unique situation where geopolitically, the world is in complete chaos, right? So you have Russia and Ukraine still playing out. You have an escalating conflict in the Middle East between Israel and the United States versus throw a dart at a Middle East map, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, pick one, that doesn't seem to be de-escalating at all. And you have Taiwan basically as a sitting duck for China, who is routinely flying more and more jets into Chinese airspace every night, just basically seeing what kind of shit they can get away with. Remember when they flew the balloon over the United States? They just want to see what they can get away. Yeah, they just want to see what they can get away with.
The quote unquote weather balloon.
Yeah, and we stood there and fucking picked our wedgies and did nothing about it. And then they decided to fly another balloon over the United States. So that's what's going on near Taiwan. So you have this unprecedented geopolitical situation where it's kind of also bled into markets, right? We weaponized the US dollar essentially when we froze Russia's FX reserves as a result of them moving into China. Fuck me. This is why you don't listen to me.
Ukraine. Yeah.
As a result of them moving into Ukraine. Thank you. And then you had, Russia and China kind of openly say that they, along with the BRICS consortium, are going to basically break off from the global economy. I mean, we had already kicked Russia out of the SWIFT system. So they said, all right, we're going to go do our own thing. We're going to trade amongst ourselves with India, Brazil, and all these other countries. And we're going to use currencies other than the US dollar to do it. And they're also using gold to do it. And I imagine they'll be using some type of digital currency at some point to do it as well. And you have a worsening fiscal situation here in the United States where, just this past weekend, we shelled out another $100 billion in foreign aid, which would be fine, but for the fact that our debt to GDP is like 130% right now. And there is a inconvenient fact that something like 98% of countries that have hit the debt to GDP threshold that we are at have either defaulted or otherwise hyperinflated or just generally gone to shit. None of them, I don't think, were the reserve currency, the global reserve currency at the time, which is the privilege that we continue to kind of beat like a rented mule, and it hasn't quite died yet. And so, I wrote in one piece, we ride the US dollar's reserve currency status like, an aging donkey up the side of fucking Mount Everest, and every time it stops to try to get a little bit of water, we don't let it. We just beat it mercilessly and pile more shit on its back. So here's the fucking dollar, like, fuck me, trying to get to the top without like dying. But we keep beating it senseless. And the question is, like, is the dollar going to hold up in the face of monetary policy that's stuck between a rock and a hard place? Because we're either going to have to let inflation run rampant, or eventually 5.5% rates are going to cripple the economy and the market. And fiscal policy that, to the best of my fucking very small brain understanding, appears to be YOLO at this point. Our fiscal policy appears to be, we know that we're not going to be able to pay off the credit card. And so we have two options: stop spending, or just YOLO the last fucking bit of the credit line here and see what happens. And we've chosen the latter option because we're not even telegraphing any type of financial conservatism at all. We're not telegraphing. I mean, forget about doing it, right? Like, cutting spending would be one thing. That's what we should be doing. We should be cutting spending. If you're not going to cut spending, at least talk about cutting spending. We're not even talking about it. Not only are we not talking about cutting spending and not cutting spending, we're spending more at an accelerating rate, and we're talking about spending more. And so we're moving in the complete wrong direction. So we are YOLOing the entire economy, and our central bank is stuck between a rock and a hard place, while the entire rest of the world separates in a fashion, the West in bricks that I don't think we've seen since like World War II. Meanwhile, 20% of the world happens to be at war already. And so every day, some Iraqi fires a missile at some fucking US base in Syria, and it's a matter of time before we get more involved and everything just goes to shit. So pile that on top of the fact that our stock market, any way that you look at it, market cap to GDP, historical price to earnings ratio, any way you want to look at it, is overvalued, extraordinarily overvalued, in my opinion. The market has doubled off of the March 2020 lows, more than doubled. I think the NASDAQ has more than doubled, off of March 2020. That's not a stock, that's an index, right? Which, that is insane. In what, 4 years? Why did things really get that much better? From a production standpoint, our trade deficits are enormous, and so I don't think that we're in a great spot. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say that not, look, even Chano said to me a year ago or whatever, he said it's an unprecedented experiment in monetary. He said it's unprecedented and it's going to yield unprecedented results. And I think he's right. And the only question is whether or not there will be any turning back after the next thing breaks. And I don't know what's going to happen. Will the market go up? Will the market double nominally? Will we just let everything inflate? Or will we crash? Or will we crash and then will we fucking hyperinflate, which I think is probably the likely scenario? Or will something give before that? Will another regional bank blow? Or will, look at all this crazy shit you're seeing. Fucking the price of cocoa, some commodity that nobody pays attention to ever. This happened a couple years ago with lumber. Remember? Everybody woke up and lumber was 50 times more expensive than it was the day before. What the fuck is going on? I'll tell you what's going on. It's like we've trapped reality in the fucking trunk of modern monetary theory, and it's like trying to punch its way out, and it doesn't really care if it does it through the cocoa market or through the fucking gold market or through Bitcoin. I think that we're in a very precarious situation, and I hope to God that I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope the dollar is the strongest it's ever been, and the nation is nowhere near a sovereign debt crisis, because I'd like to live in some type of peace here for the next 20 or 25 years, before I die. Don't want all this shit to, I feel like the Fed governors must feel like, just keep shit fine while I'm alive. And then after I die, AI can take over and crush the skulls of everybody that doesn't agree with the nation state or whatever role artificial intelligence will play in the future.
Or you could decide to like build a new system, right?
Yeah, sure.
More optimistic future, wouldn't you say?
Dude, absolutely. And I will leave that to people younger than me with more energy than I have, and you know,
No,
with
I
more
agree.
piss and vinegar in them, because my specialty is complaining without producing any results or any effective solutions. That's right in the niche where I fit. You know, I like to run my mouth, but I don't really like to produce any tangible results. And somehow I've made that into a living.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, you see a lot of people pointing at problems these days, but they're kind of short on solutions. This is why one of the reasons I'm attracted to Bitcoin, because, you know, it's finally people are like, well, here's a possible solution.
I hope it is.
Well, you know, there's risks, you know, there's it's still software, you know, there could be a critical bug. You know, there's like real risks that consider. There hasn't been anything like that. You know, any substantial damaging bug like that in Bitcoin. Maybe like very, very early on in its days, but
I hope
you
it
know,
is. Honestly,
it's hopeful. Like it's hopeful. It's like, all right, this
I
system
hope
could
it
work.
is. I
What
hope
else
it's
is
the
out
answer.
there? What other solution is out there? You know, like point me if the gold bars can be critical or anybody can be critical. It's like, okay, well, you point at this problem, you point at the spending, it just keeps going up. You look at the debt, it's gaining like $1 trillion per 100 days. I saw that stat recently. Just absolutely absurd numbers.
You know, I was watching Luke Groman the other day, and he said, like, if the government just decides to peg its gold holdings at like
Oh, the
$20,000
repricing
an
of
ounce
gold.
or something,
Yeah.
it would like immediately eliminate half of our nation's debt. And that's what's going to happen. You know why? You know, and Bitcoin will skyrocket if that happens too. But do you know why that's going to happen?
Why?
Because we don't have the patience, the capacity, the critical thinking ability, or the balls to entertain a solution that requires rigor and, you know, actual work to implement. We are experts at taking the easy way out and not recognizing problems until they've gotten extraordinarily out of hand. And we only look at a potential solution after we have exercised all the wrong decisions. So what will happen is the thing will fucking blow up. Remember Salute Your Shorts with the fishing pole? He's like, the thing came apart. You know, that's basically going to be us with the economy. The thing came apart. And then we're going to look for the easiest, fucking most spineless, cowardly solution we can find, which equates to putting another zero on an Excel spreadsheet somewhere, because that's how we solve all our problems now. And we'll peg the dollar to gold at $20,000 an ounce. And in the meantime, we'll create,
We'll
you know,
run into the
slush
same
funds and
problems.
bills that wind up fucking funding all kinds of shit in the process. And we'll do that, and there'll be some volatility, and then everybody will give themselves a big giant pat on the back at one of these, you know, congressional circle jerks where they congratulate themselves for saving the economy, and Jerome Powell will get a fucking Nobel Prize like Ben Bernanke. He give Ben Bernanke a Nobel Prize. Nobel Prize. He lied. He told the American public everything was fine. Like 4 days later, the entire market went to shit. They're like, yeah, this guy nailed it.
He also said the balance sheet would come down.
Yeah, I know. They're obviously not grading him on that. You know, Peter Schiff he said on one of his speeches, like, Bernanke wrote a book called The Courage to Act. And Schiff says he should have just called it The Coward's Way Out. Because he's fucking right. You know, give him a Nobel.
Yeah, they definitely took the easy way out. I mean, that's why, like, the most likely scenario is for them to try to print their way out of it, you know, because it's the easiest.
Of course.
Throw money at it, you know.
That's it, brother. Throw money at it.
Throw money at it. Yeah. I mean, you talk about the wars, talk about the chaos.
And there will be no audit of that money either.
Yeah. That's expensive, you know, all those wars. If we are into more geopolitical conflict, and that's more spending, you know, that's another thing that's coming into play here. And if we are entering a more volatile regime or, you know, geopolitical environment, then that's just another spending. If you just look at any wars in history, government spending goes bonkers. That's one constant between all wars. And you know, you bring up like pegging the gold dollar.
The difference between now and World War II, though, is like the money was backed by something during World War II. So
Yeah, but that's like you're like, yeah, we'll peg the dollar to the gold. I mean, like until they want to spend more and they paper it over and then they break the peg. How do you
yeah,
not
but
just run
that'll
into
be
the
like
same
another
problem?
75 years or 50
Well,
years.
yeah, that's not a permanent solution. That's actually repeating the same mistakes
That's what we do.
we made. Not even like we did that. We've actually, it would be like the third time we've done that because we went off in the 1920s. They abandoned the gold pegs.
Well, they're going to
And
have to. There's going to be some kind of like debt jubilee. There, I mean, there has to be.
Yeah. It's gonna, this is why, like, maybe I understand, like, people are like, I think Bitcoiners really come from a good place of like wanting to educate people because they want to try to get as many people to protect themselves against what we see coming in terms of the spending.
For
And you
sure.
can be critical of like how loud they are in their purpose, but it's kind of been effective if you just look at the results of Bitcoin's adoption over the last 5 years, and whether that's the cause of it. It's certainly helped drive education
Well,
in their own way. And then I just think about like one more, like, it only takes a small convicted group of people, really convicted, maybe loud, to create real change. I mean, I just think of the founding fathers in the American Revolution. That was a very small.
you're the one guy left in the country thinking about them, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, but that was literally like that was very unpopular. I think I forgot the stat, but a majority of the colonies were not supportive of that, effort in the beginning, and they kind of forced it. They were very convicted individuals. They were loud. They said, like, "This is a problem. We're going to build something new," and sometimes that's what it takes. So people might not like the way the message is delivered, but I do think it's coming from a good place where we're like, this is unsustainable. And there's like, we maybe don't see another solution. And this is the only thing we've come across where it's like, maybe this could actually be it. Maybe this is some kind of hope.
In anything, the gate can swing too far in the other direction. There comes a breaking point, no matter what it is. If it's a political issue, if it's a monetary issue, if it's just somebody you're out at a restaurant and somebody's just poking you in the shoulder, there's a breaking point for everybody, and the gate can swing too far in the other direction on any issue. And like, I would think we're seeing a little bit of it now with this, Palestinian protesters over the Israeli thing. People are just, Michael Rappaport, who is a staunch Democrat and who spent the better part of the last 10 years railing on Donald Trump on the internet, put out some video the other day. There's this issue now that affects him. He's Jewish. You have New York City, you have these protesters running around basically like threatening to kill Jewish people. Nobody seems to be doing anything about it. And so this guy takes to the internet and says, he still calls Donald Trump pig dick. He says, voting for pig dick Donald Trump is now on the table. And the point is, everybody's got their fucking breaking point. If you had asked him 6 years ago, is there any fucking thing that anybody could do that would make you think voting for Trump would be a conceivable solution, he would have been like, hell no. And that's why you see it in the polls now too, right? Trump's facing 94 indictments and 263 years in jail. And like, he's leading in the polls because people see the way things are going. And a lot of those people in the center who are kind of, do a little bit of thinking on their own and are a little bit more, malleable, are drifting back in a direction that they probably didn't drift in 2020. And the point is not to make a political statement. It's to make a point that there's a breaking point for everybody. 2008 wasn't a breaking point for bailouts and for the financial system as it existed because everything went back to business as usual. So here we are 16 years later. I don't know what the next crisis is, but if it winds up being a dollar crisis or a sovereign debt crisis, I mean, that could be a huge deal. And who knows if that will be the event that pushes, the straw that breaks everybody's back, the straw that breaks the camel's back, or if it'll be the thing after that. But there is a point always where, the rubber band kind of breaks if you pull it in one direction long enough.
Yeah. And I hope people don't,
and I'm rooting for Bitcoin.
They don't break and
honest
then
God,
they
dude.
cynical, like, because the problem's not like red versus blue. It's, don't like they both spend, and then it's just
correct.
vote. Don't try to vote your way out of this. Like, vote with your wallet, vote with the money, because that's actually where I think the underlying problem exists.
That's what should scare the shit out of people, is that both parties actually agree on monetary policy for the most part. I mean, the right probably advocates for more cuts and the left advocates probably for more spending, but they both kind of have succumbed to the Keynesian modern monetary theory school. And that should be worrisome. You should worry about something that both parties agree on like that, and don't talk about it, never hash out, and never discuss.
Yeah, they just differ on what they want to spend on. That's basically, it's not the fact that they should spend or not. That's not the discussion. So yeah, I mean, this was a fun conversation. I enjoyed it. Learned a lot, and it was super entertaining. So I think that's a good place to stop. I mean, unless you got anything else you want to say.
No, I can't believe I had this much energy at the end of the day. In my ripe old age of fucking 41 now, usually by 7 o'clock at night here, it's pretty much edible and nap time, if you know what I mean. But I feel good. I feel youthful coming on here and screaming for an hour. So I appreciate the opportunity.
No, it was fun. It was fun talking with you. And where do you want people to, if they want to follow your work and follow along with your thoughts, where can people do that?
They can find me. If you want, I'm out there.
UTR.
In the words of Larry David, when he was trying to pick up that date in that one episode, I'm around town.
Nice. Well, have a good night. Thanks again for coming on. Appreciate it, Chris.
You got it, brother.
Cool. Well, that was fun. I always enjoy talking to people from, all different perspectives. And Chris, I mean, he understands the problem, which, I mean, a lot of people don't. And this is actually why there's a lot of similarities between the gold community and Bitcoin community, and why I have a lot of love for the gold community. Honestly, I learn a lot from them. I mean, they've been fighting the fight for a long time, way before Bitcoin even was, invented or discovered, whichever way you think. And so always learn from them. And when people kind of turn their views around in Bitcoin, it seems like, we can really learn from how they did that. And so that we could better educate people, hear some of their criticisms, and use that to kind of improve our ability to get people on our side, and just teach people about Bitcoin and how they protect themselves, what we think's coming, which is a lot more spending, a lot more money printing, and probably, secular inflation. So there's different ways to protect yourselves. And I think Bitcoin is probably one of the best ways to do that. So appreciate Chris coming on. Go check him out at Quoth the Raven. And this was another episode of Swan Signal Live. Let me know what you guys thought. Comment, like, subscribe. Always helps us kind of get our message out to a broader audience and teach people about Bitcoin. That's our main mission. That's our main goal. Check out Pacific Bitcoin. That's happening in October in beautiful Santa Monica. That's the festival we put on. PacificBitcoin.com. You can use the promo code Signal for 10% off, and use Bitcoin for an additional 21% off. Thank you guys so much for listening. Your support is everything to me and Swan. So thank you again, and I'll catch you next week.